Hey family, welcome back. MarshaunO here, your favorite relationship strategist. And today we will be discussing the topic of, are you in a mature relationship? What does that look like? And then the following video. So in a few days, you will see the follow-up to this, are you in a mature relationship? The next video we will be discussing is why maturity matters in love. So now let's jump into today's video, and then the release of why maturity matters is the next video on the roster. So maturity, right? Are you in a mature relationship? Have you ever asked yourself that? Right? Because I know sometimes we get into these relationships, right? And if you're anything like myself, as I mentioned before, if you've been here before, or if you are just finding this video for the very first time, maybe you are like me, which is you were never taught how to be in a relationship. You were never taught how to be in a marriage. And so maybe this is your first real relationship. Maybe this is your first engagement, or even your second, and sometimes even your third or fourth, right? Because many of us were not taught how to be in relationships. We were not taught how to actually attract the right type of person who we needed to be in order to do just that, right? So because of that, right? Because we were not taught these things, there is a level of maturity that must happen with yourself first before you can get into and even think about having a mature relationship. And so today I'm going to reveal 5 things to look for. Yes, there are more than these list of 5, but I'm going to reveal the top 5 ways, or the top 5 things that you should look for to determine if you are in a mature relationship. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing is you need to look for solutions during your argument. So think about when you're arguing, right? How does the argument unfold, right? Do you use you? Like, you started this argument, which is why I did this. You made me feel hated, bad, whatever, insert that, right? You made me feel this way. This is why I'm doing this. So you are in reaction mode instead of responding. Responding is when you are more mature. Reacting is when you are just popping out. You're just popping out. You're trying to get your point across. You're trying to just say whatever rolls off your tongue. And usually that is in the heat of the moment. It is also a not well thought out response. Again, the word response. So when you are responding to something, this is where the maturity comes into play. It is when you have a chance to stop, think, and then say, you know what? Maybe my partner, in my case, maybe my husband is actually responding this way because he's actually crying out for help versus really knowing how to ask for help. Because maybe, just maybe, he's holding on to those feelings because he does not know how to express himself, right? So what I'm actually doing is putting myself into his shoes to figure out what his perspective may be about how he showed up, what he actually said, how he said it to me, right? And so instead of me reacting to the things that he's saying or not saying, the things that he has just done or not done, I am taking a step back, literally and figuratively, taking a step back to say, okay, maybe this is just a cry for help. So let me ask some more in-depth questions. Let me ask a little bit more. Let me get curious. So then I can actually get an answer and determine if the way that he showed up in the beginning was meant for me, or if, again, it was a cry for help in this instance. So when you are in an argument, right, you want your arguments to be productive, right? What you are looking for to say that you're in a mature relationship is you are looking for solution-oriented arguments. You are also looking for, not necessarily you two going to agree. What you are actually looking for is the way that you say, okay, both of you actually say, you know what? Actually, not feeling your opinion at all, but we are going to agree to disagree because at this point, we are not going to agree about this topic. And guess what? It's okay, right? So each of you, by the time the argument is over, should feel satisfied and ready to move on without the resentment. So you should be able to state what it is that you need to say and then say, you know what? I can agree to disagree with you, right? So now you're satisfied that you guys were able to talk about it. It now has not escalated into an argument. It has actually turned into a productive discussion. That does not mean that you have to agree. It just means that when you walk away, you're not mad, you're not angry, and you're not resentful, and you're not thinking of a way to get back at your spouse, right? You're not thinking about that. So again, you are looking for solutions during your argument. The second thing is you feel good about how you show up in the relationship and where it's heading. The both of you should absolutely feel good about where the relationship is heading. So have you had this talk? Or I should say, when is the last time you had this talk to say, this is what I've been thinking about the relationship. I like the way X is happening, but Y and Z need some work. So X is going really well. Let's continue to do that. Or if you are addressing your spouse directly, you know what? I really like the way that you do X. It makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel wonderful. Thank you. Please continue to do that. But I did notice when Y and Z happen, I don't feel good about how that's being handled, right? And so you're still able to address your feelings, right? You're not blaming, but you're still bringing the problem to the forefront. So you're able to, the first part is to talk about your problem, right? Without blaming. Talk about your problem in the form of your feelings. The second thing is to say, I don't like it because, right? So whatever your because is, why you don't like it, you want to insert it there. And then the third part is to bring the solution into play. So the third part is, I would really like it if you did this, which is the solution. So you're bringing the problem first part. The second part is you don't like it because, or you feel a certain type of way because. The third part is to bring the solution into play. I would like for you to handle it or do it this way in the future, right? So, and you like where the relationship is headed. Both of you like where the relationship is heading because, again, you're being mature, you're open and honest about what's happening with you, within you, and you're able to say, you know what? You know that you are doing the right thing, right? And your future looks bright, and you smile about your future. You smile about it often as well. This is when you're in a mature relationship. You're not always angry. You're not always sad. You're not always wondering, did that go? I don't know. Dang, that. You don't have to you don't have to have a lot of questions, right? Because you're able to ask the things that bother you and discuss them with your partner. So there is little to no guesswork happening when you are in a mature relationship. The third thing is the two of you have great communication, which is where all of this is stemming from, right? You're able to open up and freely talk about anything. And I mean anything, whether you want to hear about it or not, whether you like the topic or not, you guys are able to talk about it. Because as I mentioned plenty of times before, just because you're not talking about the thing that your spouse wants to talk about does not mean that he or she is no longer talking about it. They're just not talking about it with you any longer. That does not mean that it's that thought goes away because you don't want to discuss it. It's not discussed with you anymore. So now that piece of his or her world is now being shut off from you. And now they got to start compartmentalizing what they discuss with you based off of how you responded to the thing that they wanted to talk about. And trust me, I see this time and time again, especially with my male clients. They have a tendency to keep the home happy, quote unquote. Now, is this all of them? No, that's a disclaimer, right? But sometimes they have a tendency to keep the home happy, but they're still finding time to explore that thing or things that you shut down. Right? So again, just because you're not willing to be open to discuss the conversation that he or she wanted to talk about does not mean that it's not happening, right? And so the two of you have great communication. You're on the same page about everything or most things. And again, you can discuss as many topics as possible. Nobody's shutting them down because it's not something that makes me feel comfortable in that moment. It's not about you. It is about the collective of the relationship and the parties within the relationship. So now, number 4, you still focus on the we instead of the I. So when you're focusing on the we, you have a bigger picture when it comes to your relationship. And you actually see your partner in your future. When you're focused and solely talking about I, right? You are being selfish, but you also do not see your partner in your future, and especially in a relationship with you. So when you're in a mature relationship, especially when you like this person and you want to be there with this person, then guess what? This is a mature relationship because you're speaking about the we. You're speaking about the in future tense about we, right? You always consider your partner's feelings, and especially when you're making important decisions. You think about plans for the both of you. And again, it's not self-centered. It's not about you. And if he or she like it, then they could come along. But I'm going to go regardless. I'm going to do this thing regardless. It's not about you specifically, at least all the time. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be selfish sometimes because you need your me time. You need to be able to recharge. You need to step back from everybody and get you centered and feel good about you, and then be able to step out into the world. And this is including in your romantic relationship as well as your parental relationship with your kids, and even sometimes with your family, meaning your mom, your dad, your siblings, etc. Right? So sometimes you just need to back up from everybody and take a break from everybody, and that's okay. But in this instance, I'm talking about seeing yourself in the future with your mate. This is when you know that you're in a mature relationship. So pay attention to the I statements versus the we statements. And if you're the person that's using a lot of the I statements and you want to be in this relationship, then you need to really tighten up and use a lot more we statements to encourage your partner to feel safe with you, because you don't realize that you're slowly but surely pushing him or her away from you, out the door, because they don't feel safe while speaking to you. And whether he or she can articulate that, we know when people want us around. It's a feeling that we get, right? And so there's a quote, and I really can't remember who said it, but I think it's Maya Angelou, if I'm not mistaken, which is what she said is, I know I'm gonna mess it up because now I want to use it, which is you don't sometimes you don't remember what a person says to you, but you remember how they made you feel. This is exactly the same thing. You might not be able to articulate those things in your relationship that your spouse is saying to you, but you know the feeling, right? And then I also brought it to existence in my own when I was dating, and I was dating this guy, and I didn't realize that at the time. I was really, really young in my, I actually hadn't started studying relationships at the time that this particular guy was around. But I did notice that he would use a lot of I statements anytime he talked about the future. And specifically the one that always stands out to me is when he was talking about purchasing a home. He would say, I can't wait till I purchase this home. And at the time, I wasn't able to articulate or pinpoint that he didn't see me in his future, but it was something about that stood out to me to say, something ain't right here. Like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And lo and behold, end of the story, I was wasting my time. But now I know better, so I do better, right? Okay? So now that you know better, now that you do better as well. And now, point number 5 is you completely respect your partner in every sense of the word, from their values to their feelings to their career to the look that they have on life, period, their time. Number 6, their goals. Number 7, everything about your partner. You respect them. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that he or she says. That's not what respect means, right? Respect is just giving him or her the courtesy to have their own opinion about whatever it is that they are speaking about. So that is how you can see and determine if you are in a mature relationship. I am MarshaunO, your favorite relationship strategist, and I help Christian women that are married or in long-term relationships to stop feeling disconnected and unloved and shift you to feeling heard, understood, and appreciated, because my mission, yes, my mission is to decrease the divorce rate while simultaneously increasing the marriage rate, one conversation at a time. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And I will see you here for the next video where we're talking about why maturity matters in love. Bye now.